You're listening to the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich.
Anyway, what is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and I am here with Richie for episode, 46, 48, 52 of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast.
3,200.
We're in the tanks. We're in the rebuilds. We have no idea what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to just try to navigate our way through an unplanned podcast the same way Twitter seems to react to a 4-year-old child. Let's get into it.
Very solid. I appreciate that meme.
Anyway, so Clayton Keller apparently got some goals in the All-Star Game, and people expect me to care. Not that anyone's added me, oh, did you see this goal? But I'm just going to assume someone's going to ask. I want to preemptively say it right now. I don't watch the All-Star Game. I don't think I've watched an All-Star Game since Donor and Donor Jr. were at one of the All-Star Games years ago.
Yeah.
Was it the one in Columbus? The jerseys kind of looked vaguely like Columbus's, and they always kind of do that. This weird all-star jersey this year where it had the Miami Vice colors, and my wife loved the pink. She was like, oh my god, it looks so great. I'm like, that's cool. Glad you like it. I don't get it. I was always a GTA San Andreas guy, not a Vice City guy, and the kind of neon lights have never really appealed. Minus in Infamous Second Son. Neon lights and that were pretty cool in the neon powers. But I'm getting way off topic for a hockey podcast, so we're not going to talk about the All-Star Game. They're boring. No one tries, and it's the whole cringe, oh, hey, look at this nice shootout goal, which was pretty good by, Sarah Nurse, for example, but I'm no one was trying, and it's there's nothing to talk about. It's yeah, it's a nice move, but if anyone was trying, it would have looked a lot cooler, just straight up. So we're not talking about the All-Star Game. They're boring. I want to get that out of the way now. I think I could speak for Richie on this one. Official Desert Moon Hockey stamp of All-Star Games kind of suck.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know why people watch this. I haven't watched it in decades. I literally haven't watched it in a long time. I don't feel like wasting my time. I don't know.
That's what it is.
The other thing that I saw the clips that were posted about Keller on the 30-second clips, and that's pretty much all the coverage that I got. Were any of the women allowed to play in the All-Star Game, or only
it's
only the
games?
games?
In the skills competition, they've been doing it. I think it's for the last 3 or 4 years, to try to expand the game, get more eyeballs on women's hockey, it's a cool initiative. But you know what would be cooler? And again, I'm not saying make them all try 110% because you got a lot of big 6'4", 6'5" monsters. I don't want to see anyone getting hurt, but actually let them scrimmage against the women.
Yeah,
or
that's
have, two of the better have a women's All-Star Game as well. Hey, if you want to include them in the festivities, great. The skills competition I think is a pretty cool idea if people are trying. Because again, that Forsberg goal would have been pretty impressive if. Was it Igor in that? Is Igor or Ilya Sorokin? I forget which one. I think it was Igor. If the goalie was trying, it would have been impressive. But the problem is everyone's just having a good time. They're all just kind of having fun with it. But if you actually have an actual competition with people that want to be there, and the women's All-Stars, hell yeah, would want to be there, straight up. So it's you actually let them have a women's All-Star Game or more intense skills competitions of guys that actually want to be there and try. You're gonna get more eyeballs, and it's gonna be more entertaining.
I don't know why they don't have 4 women and put one on each division and add them to the roster. It's not like anyone's hitting. It's not like anyone's doing anything unprofessional or anything like that. I don't get why they don't have, at least one woman on each divisional team.
I mean, it would be also the amount of guys that don't want to be there, that would rather have the vacation or whatever. So the extra slots that they have NHL All-Stars going in, just take a few away and let some of the women All-Stars play, because it's they would actually want to be there. And also look at the second or first killer goal, I forget, it doesn't really matter. Whenever he got that breakaway, the goalie didn't try. The defenseman stopped skating, and again, it's an All-Star Game. I don't expect you to go all out, or I don't even care if you do, but it also kind of shows that the All-Star Game is a joke environment. No one's trying, so no one's going to get hurt. So have more fun with it. Hell, even try to reach out to different Euro players. Maybe if the seasons aren't going on or they're on a break or something, maybe Euro free agents or guys like that. Bring in more different people to make the All-Star Game a little more entertaining. because then you'll have a couple people like the women, the Euro guys that would be trying a little bit. They're not gonna headhunt. No one's getting hit. No one's getting injured, but it would make it a little more entertaining because you have people that want to be there.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't
But
agree
that's not
more.
profitable. That's like you don't want to have a good product. You just want to have the name so people show up and try to get an autograph.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what they can do to the All-Star game to actually make it relevant again. It's pretty bad. I don't know. I think that like the captains picking teams was a lot cooler years back. But oh no, somebody gets picked last and it's just like who cares? Like do the car thing. Then they get a free car and they can donate the car to whoever. Like I don't know. I just don't.
Or if you really want to go for that younger audience, make it like whoever gets picked last gets to like pick 5 random people on their socials that get like a 30-90. Like have some damn fun and reach out to the youngins.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, hell, I would watch the All Star game for a chance at that. Like I got a 30-60, but like 30-90 is a little out of the price range. Or like if Nvidia actually expects the 40 series to sell, be like, hey, we'll throw in a 40-60 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be handing out graphics cards to the All-Star game. That's some real progressive stuff right there.
You gotta make it more accessible. Hey, you know what? Hey, whoever gets picked last, you get to pick a small town that gets all of their hockey pads paid for because hockey's one of the most expensive sports. Actually, I think it's the most. Or you get to pick like a rank or like an entire program or something.
It's got to be up there. I mean, lacrosse would probably be sort of similar, although
Maybe,
they don't
but
have
I feel like
blades.
lacrosse has less padding. So
Yeah.
it's like you have a little bit less padding. The sticks are theoretically cheaper because I think they're just aluminum. But I know hockey went over to some sort of like composite stick a while ago. Wood sticks haven't been a thing forever. But it's like lacrosse has to be a little cheaper.
Hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things, like soccer, it's the most popular sport in the world. You don't even need the cleats unless you're going to play like any sort of like organizational level. And
Yeah.
you can just, here's a ball, go play. Basketball, same thing. Football, some pads, sure, but you can just kind of play around with just the ball. Hockey, you minimum need a stick. You probably should have gloves because your hands are going to get blistered, but just a stick and a ball. And where are you going to find those? Well, let's just say in Arizona, even though hockey's growing, you can go to Behind the Mask and overpay for an on-ice stick. You can go to Goodwill and look for a used-up stick blade that's like this thin. Or
Yep.
you could go to like, what is it? I got a couple sticks at Dick's Sporting Goods a couple times, and then they immediately like nothing's there anymore. There was the one at Arrowhead, and then I
Mhm.
got a couple of sticks at Five Below, and I haven't seen them since. And I'm like, hey, $5, that's a great price. They were solid quality sticks. This is not sponsored. I really just enjoyed those sticks. I'm also biased. I'm a right-hand shot, and the one I had before was a lefty. I could shoot both, I guess, but natural lefty because donors are righty. I forced myself to be a righty, and now it feels weird to shoot left. But like, very limited options, and unless you want to go spend like again like $150 on an on ice stick that you're gonna ruin, and that's like to me it's like watering your computer to clean it.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Yep. I don't know how they can bring the price down. I think that we need to find better sticks, personally. The most expensive tool in the game is the stick. And I feel like we need to make more affordable sticks if we're going to want to push our game to actually be able to compete with all the other sports.
Well, the thing I liked about those sticks from Five Below is, and I always when I was skating on the ice, I think it was modeled after Joe Sakic's stick, but I had a wood stick, and I always preferred that. It's a wood stick with like a little plastic tip, and theoretically you should be able to swap it out if you need to, but it's got this weird like you hammer it in with a nail, and I feel like that kind of isn't as sturdy. But I also could just be an idiot. But go back to wood, or make wood more available for like street hockey and stuff, or try to put and promote street hockey more because rollerblades theoretically are cheaper than ice skates. Though when I was trying to get back into the market for rollerblades, it's either you go on eBay, you get them for $40 and they'll break after a month, or you go anywhere else and pay like 150 to 200 and you'll get a nice pair. And I'm like, hey, can we have that medium Like, there's a lot of parallels, I think, because my one of my expertise has to be the gaming industry between like how like hockey, and we used to have like AAA, indie, and like those AA like mid tier games. There is no more mid tier games anymore. It feels like, even though there kind of is. Hockey pads. There's no mid tier option. There's no, hey, we're gonna find a way to make it cheaper. It's not going to be like the greatest quality, but they're going to be solid. No, there is. It's either Nerf or nothing. You're paying a ridiculous amount for your pads, and especially like with how expensive kids are in general. Hey, every year you remember trying to go shopping wherever you went shopping to get a new outfit or two for the school year. Imagine that, but with pads that are anywhere between. I think my dad got a deal for $100 for my pads when I was 13, and I never replaced any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I grew out, I just grew out. So imagine that. Let's take the base price of optimistically 100, but that's me being so optimistic. I think it's like triple that, and just that every single year. Most people can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's why we need more programs like what we've been seeing, where you just essentially rent the pads, and then you can just move up with each year, like we're seeing with the Coyotes programs and whatnot. I think that's our best approach. Because nobody wants to buy, like you're saying, $300 worth of pads that your child's going to grow out of in 6 months.
It's so unobtainable, because even like we'll go back to soccer or football. Oh, new cleats once every maybe season, couple of seasons. It's not that pricey. If you can make it pricey. Anything we talk about, you can make pricey. You can make PC gaming the cheapest, most budget-friendly thing ever, or you can have a $2,000 PC in the corner that you almost never turn on except for to play modded Skyrim. There is a range of what you could do.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, we need to find a way to make things cheaper. And I think, like, wood sticks are good. Pushing roller hockey should also be good. Though, a lot of the learn to skate stuff, like, even though I work at Mullet Arena, so there's your disclosure, like, the Iceplex does there. It's also really popular. Getting people to know how to skate properly is really good, because I still can't stop on ice skates, and whenever I do, I dig in my heel like I used to with rollerblades, because I grew up just rollerblading everywhere. And as much as I love rollerblades, I'm pretty sure it's bad practice for your blades and the ice to just dig it in on the heel like that.
Yeah, you got to learn how to hockey stop.
Dude, for the longest time, if I needed to stop, I would just go as fast as I could into the boards. I'm like, it'll have a little bit of cushion for me. It'll have a little bit of give.
That is so dangerous.
Did I ever say I made smart decisions? Ever once on this podcast?
I guess that is true. I don't think you ever have. I will say, though, if you're looking to make smart decisions, you should definitely give us a like, a follow, a subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And make sure if you're listening to us audibly, check us out on YouTube, because people like visuals and stuff. I don't know, but yeah, we're on YouTube as well, so feel free to check us out there.
And also, spay and neuter your pets.
All right, Bob Barker, relax.
You're gonna get it, Bobby. I guess the price was wrong. Anyway, we're going so far off. But let's just talk some puck, talk some hockey. Alexander Ovechkin to the Coyotes confirmed. Connor McDavid also coming over. All-Star Game in Phoenix, and everyone just stays here when they instead of leaving.
I'm curious to know how that'll go down, because we're talking about how like All-Star Games have been kind of crap the past couple of years. Like how would the Coyotes go about not making a crappy All-Star Game?
I know far too much, so I had to be very careful when I talk. They would find a way to mess it up. Oh. Just that's all. No, they would find a way. Speaking of finding a way to mess things up, let's go ahead and talk about that Tempe Arena, actually, now that I'm reminded of that. So the disinformation campaign's already started. Yep. Richie, thank you for bringing that part to my attention. TLDR with that $200 million, isn't it essentially like that's a tax lien, isn't it? Where it's still like the Coyotes are paying for it?
Yeah, I have to look back into it, but essentially the way it goes down is that, yes, they're going to be given, they're not going to be paying on this money. But like the people that go there to spend their money at the entertainment district, you'll be given an extra like surcharge tax on your items there, and that's what's going to pay towards that 200 million. So like
Just
if
so
you
you
if
guys know, it could technically be considered like tax money, but it's not tax money. It's not your
yeah
property tax. It's not
yeah
your sales tax at Tempe Marketplace or downtown, or Mill Ave. It's literally just in this little bubble. But of course, like they have to make it sound as bad as possible, and the Coyotes are doing a terrible job at fighting back against that. But just so we keep reinforcing this,
mhm.
it's not real like tax money.
No,
It's a separate surcharge
because
that
if
they are
you
proposing in their TED district.
yeah if you don't support the entertainment district and you're a taxpayer of Tempe, you are on the hook for $0 for this. You
As it
literally
should be.
Yeah, you're literally on the hook for $0, and yeah, it's just the misinformation campaigns have been going hard, and they should have known that this was going to happen, and they need to step up
Well,
their
it's also
their
kind
efforts.
of get into what was it, Randy Keating? Is his name Randy, or am I terrible at memory? But the council member was on with Craig Morgan, Steve Peters, and I think Leah was there too. When PHNX, and they were talking about this arena proposal, and one of the funniest quotes he had was like, "Well, it's not my arena." Very much like keeping his, like, as you should as a public figure, being as like disconnected and unbiased as you possibly can. Like, hey, we did our negotiating. We can't endorse or speak out against this, and like I can't appreciate that. It's rare when you actually see people in those positions sticking to what their duties are.
Yeah.
But you're talking about how you're seeing the people who are against this arena proposal. They're very well organized, and they've already started kind of mobilizing the troops, if you will. Whereas he mentioned from his perspective, he doesn't see the Coyotes doing that. And that's kind of what I'm alluding to when I said the Coyotes will find a way to mess it up and I know too much. Because I pay attention to stuff like this. I'll watch these interviews. I'll read the articles. I'll do whatever. And if I happen to hear a couple whispers, I hear a couple whispers. And while I have nothing particular on this specific minus this interview, it's pretty consistent with how the Coyotes seem to always fumble these situations. And it's like, I know my biggest advice was shut up, don't do anything dumb, but also get in the community, keep everyone informed. And for some reason, it seems like that second part of that they're having a hard time doing. And
Hmm.
look, you have to show you want to be in Tempe. You have to make it clear, you, Tempe resident, as you're knocking door to door or whatever, your property tax, your sales tax going to the grocery store, or when you buy something online or whatever, that is not going to this. If you do not like this arena, you're not paying for it. If you do like this arena and you go to spend money in this district, it is only within the lines of this district, then you will pay for it. And this is how you can support it. And this is how you can be informed and vote yes on this. And the thing is, I think they got too cocky with those early polls being what? It was anywhere between 60 and 67% or something like that. It was, mid to high 60s. It was a solid number of people that supported it. And they see that, okay, you don't have to do anything anymore. What do you mean you don't have to do anything anymore? Like, you need to go out there and do your job.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? If you want to be here, then go out there and do it. If you don't want to be here, go to Gary Bettman and say, hey, we talk to Houston. Hey, Quebec's got an arena. If you don't want to be here, just tell us. I know you're supposed to be professional. You're supposed to be, well, we had to try to make it work here. I get it. But look, I've been a fan of this team too long. I love this team way too much. All right, so much of of my formative years was just loving this team. All right, and just like revolving around this. If you're gonna pull the plug and you don't want to be here, just be honest. Just say it. But if you do want to be here, go out there and show me. Because you should not, like, the kind of people that are against this are idiots. Because they take advantage of well-meaning, misinformed individuals that don't want their tax dollars going to a billionaire's playground. And I agree with that. Stadiums, if you want all this revenue, all this control, whatever, you should be on the hook for it. That's logical. 100% completely agree with that. But the problem is we're taking the bad examples of this or that building and saying, oh, this is the exact same thing, when it's literally to its fundamental core built differently. Because it also, what is it? It was a different. There, it's unlike the other buildings are not exempt from property tax. So Tempe is still getting all this money, and then there's a lot of trying to reroute their property tax, a portion of it, to going back into paying for the building. But I forget which percentage it was. I want to make sure I'm getting this as correct as it's been explained to me, but I'm not the smartest individual. I do apologize. But it's essentially, if you're taking $100 in the Coyotes property tax here, just to keep the numbers as low as possible, they want like $30 or $40 going back into this system so everything gets paid for and it's all good. But it's only there because the Coyotes put an arena there. They built it. They're generating revenue. That's the only reason why that tax revenue would exist. It's not coming from you or the fries down the road or the small business. Like, and there's also, they have to still pay for, is the entire 30 years? Like, it's not like property tax exempt. They have to pay their property taxes. They're actually making sure taxes must be paid and collected. And it's like, it's actually a really good deal. Like, look, the city of Tempe is not dumb. They're not. It's literally one of the fastest growing. It's one of the more well maintained and ran cities in the state. They're not dumb. They wouldn't approve of this and say this is good enough to show to the voters if it was like, yeah, we know we're gonna get Oakland or we're gonna get whatever. Like they wouldn't do that. And this from me, who very much despises the modern government, and I will put a period there and end it there. That should be saying a lot that I actually have faith in this council and how they ran this city. Yep. So I'm like, it's actually a good proposal. And the Coyotes, it's not my job to do whatever I can to inform you, but I still will because I love the team and I support having the facts out there. But how the hell is it that some fat idiot in his office with a snoring dog over here can say that and make sure to keep the record straight and put in that effort, but you guys can't, and allegedly you're the ones that want to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I just let you stand on the soapbox and let you go. So, I think that if we're a few months away, we're still like what 2 months away.
Yeah, I think 2.5.
They definitely need to start combating this misinformation campaign, or else they could potentially see this this fall apart. People are very gullible, unfortunately. That's just the way our world is, and they need to start pushing their message, figure out a game plan, and get it done.
And it's like, and Mayor Corey Woods even confirmed it. It's a very definitive statement. This is our proposal we're bringing to our voters. If they vote no, that is their decision, and that is that. And it's 3 separate proposals. I think one is for the sale, one's zoning, and one's for the project to go forward. I think is how it broke down, because I didn't realize until they were showing these little videos on the Mullet Arena, Jumbotron. It was like breaking down how it's 3 different ones. Like, so that's how I think it breaks down, but that I'm the least knowledgeable about what's on each individual proposal. I'm also not a Tempe city resident, so I couldn't vote on it anyway. But it's 3 separate proposals. If any of those 3 fail at all, the deal is gone, and they will not renegotiate because they did their negotiation. They presented what they think is the best possible, scenario they can come up with that they think is fair, which I think it really is, and presented it. And if the voters say no, you're done. Yes, there are other cities. Yes, you can ask to build on reserve land that's pretty much right across the street from where you want to be anyway. You can ask to do that. That is an option you do have. But the problem is then if you're not going to take it seriously and you're banking on that in the back of your mind because you're so arrogant that, oh no, they'll vote yes, like they really love us here. I'm like, you got to convince them to love you here. Not that they do. And also, like you were saying with the gullible, literally the Sky Harbor had that stupid little campaign in Scottsdale. And if you actually read the quotes from some of the residents, one of them was like, oh, I don't think it's fair that the city of Tempe can vote on stuff that affects us, when it literally wouldn't. And in order to reroute those flight paths, there's like an entire bureaucracy to get there, a process in order to do it. And they wouldn't have done it. It was literally a bluff. And
Yeah.
that was enough to convince some people, because all you got to do is look professional and say, "Hey, this is happening," and most people will believe it. Even I sometimes fall into that camp because I'm also kind of an idiot. I just do my best to try to un-idiot myself. So it's like, it's frustrating, and I shouldn't hear a single negative story about this team in any context. Be it they're being lazy with this arena, or they kicked a puppy on Mill Ave on December 31st, 1972. Like, I shouldn't hear a single negative thing. It should be like, everything is perfect, everything is great. Oh, hey, they were doing this in the community yesterday. Hey, they were going door to door, and the numbers are going back up. Hey, they threw a barbecue out front of Mullet Arena on a random day, so a bunch of the students can come hang out and get some free food. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care what the random example is. I shouldn't be hearing stuff like they're being lazy about this. I shouldn't be hearing stuff like, oh, they're kicking the puppy in Mill Ave or whatever. Like, that's not a real story. That's why I said 1972. That's not a real story. But it's like, the apathy and the mismanagement should not be a thing at all, under any circumstances, at all.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I'm just mad.
I don't know why you'd spend all this money on all the efforts that have gone in so far. Those CAD files, all that stuff. Like, that stuff's not cheap. It's very expensive. All the labor stuff that they've done to get this deal up to this point. And they're not. They need to start dishing out money in order to, stop the misinformation. It's annoying. I completely, I agree with that. It's really annoying having to correct misinformation, but if you want to win, you're gonna have to do it. So it is what it is.
There's stuff in life you don't want to do. Like, in that perfect utopia, should you have to go to work so you can feed your family? Should you have to leverage X amount of hours of your life just so you can bring home the bacon? Sure, in this idealized, like, utopia, sure, you shouldn't have to, but I have to. Because if I want food, the people that produce the food, then that ship it and sell the food, they all got to get paid because they also got families to feed. So it's like, I don't want to have to get up and go to work and drive 45 minutes, but you know what? I'm going to, because I'm an adult and I got adult responsibilities. If you want this arena built, act like an adult and go handle your business. There's always going to be idiots. There's always going to be detractors. Like that one idiot that was like filming after the proposal was voted yes to go to referendum. And just like filming everyone in the building. Oh, they all work for the Coyotes. Can't you see? Look at these nice suits. And like, the people on one side, like a quarter of those people openly opposed it and were just hanging out afterwards, and everyone's talking because you don't agree on X issue doesn't mean you think the person should die or something. So like, they were all just conversing afterwards and getting ready to leave. But that was apparently, like, people actually believe that. People actually thought, like, people like her make sense and are logical. Like, it's not ideal. It's not the thing we all want to do. Sure, yes, you shouldn't have to devote $2 million, right, to a campaign to combat misinformation. Well, guess what? Again, you can crap in one hand and wish in the other. Which is going to fill up first? You're an adult. Do your job. Get this arena done. Because if this arena doesn't go through, I don't care what other options there are. The reasoning it wouldn't go through is going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I probably wouldn't openly support the next project because it would probably end up the exact same way. You got one chance to prove to me you actually want to be here. Because I've been through enough of we're going to keep the team here. Here's a new ownership group. We're going to do it right. I've been through enough of that. Get your job done. If you want to be here, do it. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me you're going to stop hitting me. Stop hitting me.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have been listening up to this point in the podcast, I hope you've enjoyed what Matt's been talking about, and hopefully it has not triggered any PTSD moments. But, make sure to give the podcast a like, a follow, subscription on whatever you're listening to. I'd really appreciate it. Or leave us a comment, say hello, say peanut butter. Just say peanut butter in the comments. That's all you need. Bada
I
bing,
just
bada
want one
boom.
more person to add us on Twitter and ask to join the Weak Chin Society. I don't think you realize, sir, that asked like within 45 minutes of the episode going up. That meant something because that tells me people actually like listen.
Yeah.
Like actually listen. Like that was funny. That was cool. You get a gold star and there's 3 members. We need some more. We need to have an army that will roll out. We'll all get customized kachinas and go door to door as the Weak Chin Society.
We'll be the door knockers for the Coyotes to actually get this arena deal done.
Anyway, so now that I got off Matt's soapbox, I really need to stop being lazy and just make that our weekly segment. But
Yeah.
I want to talk about this team a little more.
Okay.
I want to keep looking to the future. We've done a lot of discussion talking about who's going to get moved, who's whatever, what this team's going to look like. What is your vision of this team next year from the perspective of young kids, what roles they're going to have, if they're going to make the team, and a type of veteran you think they're going to bring in? Like, I'm not saying name a name because we're not getting Bo Scorvat or Dylan Larkin, nothing like that. But the role of guy you want to see.
I will say this: it will be another Nick Bugstad type. It is not going to be Dylan Larkin or Bo Horvat. As fun as it would be to say, like we could get them, I don't think that next year is the time in which we would. This offseason would be the time in which we would go out and get a big ticket free agent like that. I think that the year for that is going to be the year after when Austin Matthews comes home. Nope.
Because I mean, like you don't want to blow the bag too soon. You
Yeah.
know, like you don't want to be locked up in this one guy. And let's just say Gunther scores 35 next year because he's looked good. He's had a little bit of inconsistencies. We talked about it. He's 19. He'll get over it. Like we're not sweating it.
Yeah.
So he pots 35 next year. He has one more year left on the ELC. How much do you think he's going to get paid? Cooley comes up. Let's just say he comes in next year. He pots 15. He's looking pretty good. He's still developing. He's going to be a 25, 30 goal scorer. How much you going to pay him?
Yep.
You got to plan it out. And BA, despite the fact that we have the most cap space right now, we could have signed any free agent on a 1-year contract. It's like we don't have all that cap space. Like when he was being very conservative when signing when signing this guy and that guy. It's like because he's trying to manage everything as properly as possible without having a shark situation where in the video games, when I can control the roster, everyone gets an 8-year contract. For as little as I can pay him, because I can make Michael Bunting a 99 overall making $1.1 million for the next 6 seasons. I can do that because it's a video game. Mm-hmm. But if you're in real life, you don't want to have Mark-Edouard Vlasic, Evander Kane, Logan Couture, Joe Pavelski, 3 other guys all on like 5-6 years remaining. And then it's like, oh, hey, if anything goes wrong, let's say these guys start to slow down a little bit or, they just weren't as good as you thought they were, or the competition gets better and outplays you. Well, now you have no cap space to fix it. And they play it patient. We've been speaking patience this entire time with this rebuild because they're actually doing it right from the ground up, and you need to continue that. Again, remember how exciting it was? How excited were you when you got the news that Kessel and then Hall were coming to Arizona?
Sorry, you cut out the news that what?
Hall and Kessel came to Arizona. Like, how excited were you when that happened?
I was pretty excited, I would say. It felt like it was starting to legitimize our chances at trying to go for the playoffs, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I was so pumped. I'm like, Phil Kessel, that's a big name. And he's still producing. He was still a point-per-game guy at that point. That fall-off didn't happen until the next year. And the thing is, I should have been a little more skeptical on that. Hindsight's 2020. Taylor Hall elevated Connor Garland. Everyone else has their opinions on him. Most people didn't like his time here. I don't really care about that because I think he was good for what I was looking for and what he ended up doing. But it wasn't good enough. And then guess what? Hall leaves in free agency. You can't get rid of Kessel, who puts in a trade request. And what could you do with that roster for the last year of Rick Tocchet? You couldn't. You literally, physically could not. It was a frozen roster at that point. You can bring in Pitlick, who I like. You can bring in Dzingel, who I like, but was injury prone. and that's about all the additions you can make, and then it was time to blow it up.
Yep.
So, like, be patient. They're doing it right, but they need to continue to do it right. I still stand by. Say Bo Horvat doesn't get an offer he likes, goes to free agency, and everyone's still cap strapped, so he still can't get the offer he likes. Hey, Arizona, give him 1 year, $10 million.
I was literally just thinking that. Yeah. Like what we will see at not free agency. Yeah, free agency. What am I thinking? Yeah, at free agency. Like if there's ever going to be like a big ticket guy coming here, it'll only be for a year, and pulling the Taylor Hall that he did with Buffalo, where he signed for a year, got traded at the deadline to Boston, and then signed long term in Boston. Something like that.
Gives you an extra year buffer because things will change. It's a fluid situation. Guys might get hurt. I have LTIR money that you didn't have at the start of the season. Hey, that Bo Horvat, if you retain half of it, you get even more value. Now, Bo Horvat would already get you decent value, but here's a little more for your troubles. Now it's a $5 million Bo Horvat for the year. And then, hey, you know what? We're acquiring him because he might fit into our long-term plans. Oh, wait, we have an $8.5, $9 million contract slot for the next 6 years. We can give him that offer. Like, that's what I wanted. Potential. That's what we were speculating with Kadri whenever that stupid rumor was thrown at us. We speculated that because it's, hey, you can bring in a guy that you're going to trade at the deadline because he wants to control where he goes, but no one has the money to pay him right now or pay him what he wants. With Kadri, it ended up working out, but with the amount of free agents coming up this year, it might not for some of these guys. So I'm like, hey, if you can, give him 1 year, overpay him a little bit, because with your retainment slot, you're retaining on an expiring contract. You get it right back the next year if you need it. You can get value for nothing, and a guy can still get paid what they are worth on the open market, and it's still player friendly for the crowd that for some reason really needs to stick up for millionaires.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So yes, Bo Horvat to Arizona confirmed 1 year. And then we trade him for Austin Matthews.
1 for 1. The trade is 1 for 1.
1 for 1, baby. You know what? Bo Horvat's been a fan favorite. He's been our captain a whole entire half season. Throw in Matthew Nyes for our troubles. Just throw him in there.
All right.
I'm being an idiot again. Anyway.
Is there anything else that you have to talk about, or?
Well, we still want to talk about the kids. Like what do you expect out of a lot of these kids next year?
Okay.
Like where do you see Michelli? Do you see Cooley on the roster? Where do you see Gunnar having a sophomore slump? What are your projections?
So, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I could see a few kids getting traded, potentially next year. I feel like the roster the amount of kids that we have coming up, I feel like we're running out of roster space for them. Call me crazy.
Theoretical roster space, because I still got to actually crack the roster first.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, if they do, like, there's going to be time where we're going to be losing people. I think that, like, Carcone, he's gone. Like, I don't think he's going to resign here. I think he's going to want to go somewhere where he can get a better chance at playing in the NHL. Like,
and honestly, he should be up right now. I'm tired of the argument of like, oh well, he'd qualify for waivers. You have a healthy scratch spot with Zach Cassian's bald head etched into it. Play Carcone in your bottom six. I know Tucson needed the help, but Tucson's not going to make the playoffs. They started to bounce back a little bit. They are not good enough. Kick the can next year. Figure it out next year. You'll get a couple extra talented young skaters. I think Julian Lutz might come over. There's a couple other guys that would be eligible that might be able to come over. Figure it out then. All right? This year is lost. You've built no consistency. It's the exact same as every other year. Start out hot, start sucking, get mediocre a little bit. You're probably going to fall out by next month. All right? Stop it. He's an NHLer. Bring him up. He's a bottom six / middle six NHLer. He's not a first liner. He's not a consistent top sixer, but he's someone that can fill in on the second line if you need. He's got an NHL level shot. He should be playing up here. I don't want to make the same mistakes like we did with Bunting, where we had him in our system all this time when you could see that he had that potential at the NHL level when he actually looked back at his limited games and how he did play well. We just didn't know how well he was going to turn out. But I'm an idiot, in an office. I am not the talent scout. I am not the coach. I am not the GM. All right? Those people should be much more qualified than I am and should be able to recognize that much better than I could. 100%. So a guy like Carcone should be up here. He should be an NHLer. End of discussion. And we're going to lose him for nothing. And we also might lose Nate Smith, essentially, for nothing. And he's finally started to turn it around and, really, get his game together in terms of the offensive production in Tucson. So it's like, you don't want to lose assets for nothing and make a habit of it and just treat players like they're disposable when you have Zach Cassian on your roster.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just there's a lot of decent kids and there's just not enough space. So I think that you're gonna start to see trades, personally. I don't know how how these guys are gonna be able to crack the NHL.
Gunther or Michelli get moved. With how they're using them, now they're trying to make them interchangeable, but Michelli plays phenomenal with Bukestad and Krause. But they try to replace him with Gunner, and they still kind of try to keep that going a little bit when Michelli came back. I feel like one of those two is it, and I know it's not going to be Gunther.
I think it's going to be Gunther, Michelli, or Nick Schmaltz, but I don't know if anyone's going to take Nick Schmaltz.
The problem is with how good he is when he plays, I'm surprised there is no interest if we retained. But I don't know if they're willing to retain. They should be, because the thing is, I know there is the concern
I don't think you can.
He's Keller's best friend. He's really, there's a lot of chemistry with Keller. I know that concern. I get it. It is a valid concern. But with how good Michelli and Gunther have been and can be, I see them both as top sixers. The first line is probably going to be when the Austin Matthews meme goes away and he's playing in Florida or LA or whatever. When that meme dies out, it's probably going to be Cooley or Bedard as your first line center. If you can keep Hayton around, he's second or third depending on what comes up. Geeky's going to take a little bit of time to develop an NHL level ability. He's playing well this year. Next year he's Tucson eligible, I think?
I think so.
I can't wait to see him in the AHL. I want to see him against higher competition. But I don't know how long it's going to take him to be NHL ready. So we can kind of factor out Geeky for a little bit. Donor's probably going to stay in college. Craig was talking about how he's just enjoying college. He probably stays all 4 years, which would be good because someone who is a big fan of Donor and works in the mullet arena, it's good to have a constant presence. But you can kind of count those guys out a little bit in this discussion. Michelli and Gunner are going to be top sixers, and they are, and they're going to stay that way. So who's the odd man out? Schmaltz is good, but I don't see him as part of the future. Same thing with Karel Vejmelka. Everyone loves Karel Vejmelka. I have no issues with him. I don't mind if he stays. But it's like, when it comes to giving that long-term contract to Vejmelka, it's always been my, this feels like one of those guys that plays really good for a couple of years and then drops as soon as you get that contract. Like, I'm a little weary on this one. And that's that gut instinct. And my gut has never led me astray. Anytime I get that gut feeling, even if I look over to my left and I see no one in that lane, and I decide to hold off for another couple of seconds, there was someone in the blind spot. My gut has never led me astray. I'm sticking to that. So with Schmaltz, I don't see him as part of the future. I see him as getting bumped down to the third line. I forget which tweet I said, but I project him as getting bumped down to the third line, and you don't pay him that much to get on the third line. And it's nothing against him as a person or a player. I just see other players fitting in better with these roles and benefiting more from that ice time. And probably getting you better, more consistent production. So you can't tell me if this idiot right here recognizes that, or at least that's my opinion, that no one else can see that as a possibility. Doesn't mean they think it's what's going to happen. Again, they're much smarter than I am. But you can't tell me that doesn't mean that it hasn't crossed their mind with the kind of kids that are coming up. So it's like, if you can, get out from under Schmaltz. If you can get value from Vejmelka, move on from him because you can get your goaltending last. And just keep trying to focus on developing the guys in your system to see what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Prosy has not had a season with more than, 3 games at the NHL level? That's not enough to really see what a kid can offer. So it's like, trade Vejmelka, bring up Prosy, have him and Ingram be your 1A, 1B, and have them alternate either 1-1 or 2-1. So that way you're getting enough starts for every guy. Like, you have to know what you have, essentially. And if you can get value, get value. Because I can see Veggie being a burnout in 2 years. I don't want that to happen, but that's my gut. I could see Schmaltz losing his first line, second line spot. That's my gut. So I'm like, we got some talent coming in. We're going to probably move one or two of these kids. Like, I was talking to someone at Mullet, and I was like, hey, the bright side about having so much, they're drafting good young talent, guys like Connor Geeky, whatever. Hey, we need a right shot defenseman. We can move Geeky. He's expendable because we have Michelli, Gunner, X, Y, Z, whoever else. Like, we can move that. That's not going to demolish us. We can do that.
Yeah.
So same thing with these guys. Like, if you can get some benefit, and I know Craig Morgan's a little weary on if Schmaltz has value because of the inconsistency and the injuries, but I'm like, he has to have some value somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, like, another team that could use him right now in a contending window, he would work better on than here. Because he's probably a little old to where we're going to want him to be, like, when we're ready to compete for cups. Not playoffs, for cups. So I'm like, so if you can move out from him, do it.
Yep, absolutely. I'm with you there. It sucks. Like, I like Nick Schmaltz. I like him as a person. I like him as a player when he's playing. But ultimately, he cannot stay consistently healthy, and because of that, I think you absolutely trade him.
If you can, if there is a move out there.
Yeah.
But it's like, and he also, again, from the perspective of a team that would get him, he's providing value right now in a window that you need to compete. It's like, I think he is literally by 1 or 2 years. It's like a hair, just a little bit, past where you want him to be for this rebuilding team, because it's that's how hockey is. Like, it's a game of inches. It's also just a victim of circumstance where it's like you could be here in the wrong spot by like a year. So I'm like, I have them projecting out. I have Cooley coming up at the end of this season or just at the start of next year, because he already said he doesn't want to go. He only wants to have the 1 year in college. I don't know if they're going to convince him otherwise when he's looking at the bright lights of the NHL. And if I was 18, 19, you're like, hey, you can stay in college or you can go get paid to play in the best league ever. I know what decision I'm making. Whether it's the best for my long-term success or not, I know what decision I'm making. I'm doing that. So I have him projected to play in the top 6. Barrett Hayton, if he can keep playing the way he is, he can play first-line center next season. Not your forever franchise center, but that's a good, second, third-line center. He might, with how well he's playing so far, like this little stretch before the All-Star break, he's given me confidence again he could be a second-line center in the NHL. And if you have a guy that can be second or third, that's valuable for a team. That's good for the depth. Keep him, extend him, do what you can. I really think he's put himself in that core. But again, then it takes another roster spot away from where else you're going to have. Let's say you get Leo Carlson. Let's go ahead and just go off the board a little bit. Well, not off the board. I think he's ranked 3 or 4, but off the Coyotes fans board.
Yeah.
All right, so Carlson, let's say you just throw him on the first wing, because you can have him, Keller, and Cooley, or you can have Keller, Gunner, and Cooley, and then have Michelli playing with Carlson. You can do a couple of things. That's still what your top 6 looks like, and we're not envisioning Schmaltz there. We're not envisioning this guy there. We're not envisioning that guy there. So it's like, if you can, get some value.
Yep.
Yep. Because the bottom 6 is going to be McBain and Fisher on your 3rd to 4th line, and with how well Fisher's played, I don't mind it being on the 3rd line. Now, there's a shelf life. I don't know when that is. I don't want to think about it right now because I'm enjoying him and McBain playing well together. I'm just going to enjoy it and roll with it.
Yep.
But now you got to look at, okay, where are the role guys going to go? Where can we fit some guys that are going to be your 4th line center? Be a glue guy, be this guy. Where are those? Like, I feel like in free agency, you're going to get another Bukestad type. I know Boyd's probably going to play 3rd, 4th line minutes. It was really cool to see him, like, his revenge tour last year, but, like, that was the shelf life one season of him playing like a number 1 center, because there was always a shelf life on Travis Boyd playing like a number 1 center in the NHL. But you still have a solid role player in him. Do you see him being moved to a team that might need some veteran depth? Or do
I think you
he's valuable
absolutely.
here?
Yeah, I think you absolutely could see him being traded. I like once again going back to the need roster space for in the NHL for these kids. Like
Hmm.
I could absolutely see him. He's 29. He's gonna have one more year after this at 1.75 million. I don't think it's a trade that you're gonna see at this deadline. I doubt that. But
Hmm.
next deadline, absolutely. I think you could see a trade to a contender for depth centerman. You know, just like Nick Bukes said.
Because if you always need that depth center, and well, yes, the Boyd first liner meme is dead. He's still a valuable player. Like say like even like we're talking about getting rid of Schmaltz, he has value. We were talking about his value. Like those are guys that you can get value
Yep.
for because contending teams, we can use a top six winger. Contending teams, we can use a middle six center. That hey, when he needed to, he came in and played some first line minutes, meaning he can take on additional responsibility if an injury happens because he'll have that short term window where he can step in and do it. That's how these GMs are going to think about it. They're not going to think, oh yeah, Boyd's going to be our number one center for the next 5 years. But you think about it, like that's a guy that can give us depth. Bukestad has ran with that top six, second line center spot. I expected him to be a bottom six, fourth liner, and he came in and showed he can still play top six. So again, you're looking at him. You're Colorado. You're whoever else. Hey, we've had some injuries this year. That's a good guy we can throw in the lineup. He can play bottom six. He'll play productive, but X player gets hurt, God forbid, he can come in and step in and fill that role. And we
Yeah.
only need him to do it temporarily. We're not asking him for the next 5 years. So it's like guys like Boyd, obviously Bukestad. I can see Schmaltz, but at the same time, if the trade does not happen this deadline, I don't think Schmaltz is leaving for one reason. Was it the limited no move or is it the guaranteed money or like the contract like dollar amount goes up to where like nobody would want to acquire it? Because the NHL contract is still structured weird where you can get like paid more in certain years and the cap hits like the average.
So for him, his total salary has been pretty low. So his total salary first year was 3 million, second year was 3 million, third year was 6
Mm-hmm.
million, fourth year was 4.5 million, and then the last 3 years, like you're talking about, is a modified no trade clause with a total salary of 7.5 million, 8.45 million, 8.5 million. So yeah,
It's kind of backloaded.
it's backloaded, and on top of that, like you're saying, next year it is a modified no trade clause, meaning that he hands the Coyotes a 10-team no trade list.
So it's like the money you're paying him goes up. The cap is fine, and teams that can afford it, Toronto. I'm just throwing a team out there that could afford the extra.
Yeah,
money.
yeah, like
The cap's
original
gonna be the
six.
same,
Yeah, original
So,
six teams don't give a crap about what the salary is that they're paying.
mhm. But when you're when you're a middling team, or a team that might be like, I'm thinking a Nashville or a Florida, where it's like you're either a smaller market or a pretty decent like medium market. Do you really want to take on that much extra salary?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you know what I
definitely
mean?
it's definitely a factor, 100%.
So
Like,
especially with the injuries, with a little bit of the inconsistency, that's where I think Craig's probably talking about where it's like the value might not be there
mhm.
in a
I
trade.
if it was me though, like I don't care what value it is. Like, I'm sorry, but Nick Schmaltz unfortunately has not stayed healthy in his career, his entire career, and
What's the most games played he had in the season? Wasn't it around 60 or was
uh,
it 50?
in Chicago he had 78. That was his second year in the NHL. He did technically play a full season. He played the lockout shortened
Oh,
52. He
right.
played a full season in that. So technically he does have a full season, air quotes, but not a full 82.
It's kind
Um,
of like having that 43 game, 12-13 season as a full season.
yeah. I don't know. Like, yeah. Like I say, like I like Nick Schmaltz as a person, but that term, the injury history, where he's going to be when we're ready, like it just doesn't line up. It just does not make sense to me. Whereas you look at Clayton Keller, who's 2 years younger, 24, like that makes more sense.
So, last topic to end it on. And
Hmm.
this might be a bit of a clip bait, but what about Keller?
I don't think he's traded. I don't think.
Wait, hear me out. All right, and this is not me advocating for it. I like Kells. All right, he might be a little too introverted to be the captain, but he's still a damn good player, and he's really coming into his own more and more, like just consistently. This kid's good. But
Yeah.
with the amount of kids we have coming in, let's just say they all develop, they all hit, and then you make the Schmaltz. You're making the Schmaltz trade, and Keller's a little disgruntled because him, Boyd and Schmaltz. Say Boyd and Schmaltz are gone. He's a little disgruntled, but you have Bedard, Cooley, Donor coming in, Geeky. You hit on that draft pick. You have Bocelli, Krause, all these guys, and you're having a little bit of, again, just in this specific scenario, you're having a little bit of a dysfunction with Kells. Would Kells technically be disposable?
I don't think so. I think that, well, the problem is that I think that you need somebody to teach these young kids how to play in the NHL, and I think that Keller does. He's doing it the right way. Like Keller, when he first started, cheated hard on defense. Keller first started, he only looked for offense, but now Keller actually plays pretty well two ways. You know, he plays a respectable game, and that's something that a lot of kids need to learn. A lot of these skilled forwards that we have that are going to be coming up that, you know, need to see how it's done, and I think Keller could absolutely mentor them. You know, we just, for instance, we saw that Cooley, he looked up to Keller growing up, and he liked what he saw from Keller's game. So, like, that's absolutely like a great fit where you see those two guys, and yeah, that line's not going to be very big, but I could see that those two just absolutely just toying with other teams offensively and potentially even defensively, being pretty defensively responsible.
Dude, I remember, I think it was in 2020. It was after the Keller's overrated video because I hated his lack of any defensive effort in his his second year. And then you also had that sophomore slump where it's like, oh, the offense isn't what it used to be, or is what it was last year, excuse me. What it used to be is the wrong terminology. But it wasn't what it was last year, and the defensive game is absolutely just, it was awful. Like, it was in 2020, I noticed one play, he was a bit of a rat. He was behind the play, and he was just right in on this guy's rear end, like lifting up his stick, trying to get involved, trying to get that puck off his stick and try to steal it back. And another play where he was hauling it down to try to get back defensively. He had a pretty solid poke check. I'm like, can this guy play two-way?
Mm-hmm.
Is he actually trying?
Yep.
Where the hell was this? So it's like, that is insanely valuable. That's also why Keller's your franchise guy right now. Not a franchise center, but he's still your franchise player.
Yeah.
My little thought experiment was just like, if he gets disgruntled, could you afford to lose that? Or is he so valuable to the team and their culture, you preserve him at all costs at this point?
Yeah, I don't see a trade. I don't see a trade at all. Personally, like, good cap hit, good leader, wants to play here. That's another thing too. Like, you have to have these guys that want to play here. You know, let's not kid ourselves, Coyotes fans. Like, yes, we know that we have an unreal market in the terms of, like, wanting to live places. I would say Arizona is probably top 3 in the NHL. That's the truth. Would you rather be in negative 20 degrees Celsius Winnipeg, or would you rather be in, 65 degree Arizona, chilling on your back porch? Like, sorry, that's just the truth. But at the same time, that's not the only thing that's just going to draw people here. You have to be successful, and in order to be successful, you have to have guys like Clayton Keller on your team who advocate around the league for wanting to be here. Another guy who I could see it happening is Gunnar. I don't know. Did you watch the interview? Gunnar was on Spit and Chicklets like a couple weeks ago.
No, I very rarely. I only watch like the clips they put on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't. I don't really watch the pod anymore, but I do watch when, like, Coyotes players and Coyotes media and whatever are on there. I'll take a listen. But yeah, he was on there, and Biz asked him, like, have you been talking to Connor Bedard about Arizona? And he's like, oh yeah, I've been, I've been telling him, how sick it is to live in Arizona. So, like things like that goes a long distance. Because even if Connor Bedard doesn't go to Arizona, which there's a very there's a higher chance that he doesn't than he does. Let's not kid ourselves here, Coyotes fans.
We're optimistic. We're not that optimistic.
there's a higher chance that he doesn't go to Arizona, and but when you have teammates like that, like Gunnar, who's talking to him about it, and that travels through the league. When Connor Bedard comes into the league, he's not going to look at Arizona like potentially how other superstars look at Arizona. I'm not saying that I know anything, but I'm just saying, like, maybe Connor McDavid, that the 2015 year is like, thank God I didn't get drafted to Arizona. I hate Arizona, or whatever. But like, when you have more people spreading the gospel, you get a better look at Arizona. It's
just trying to elaborate on that as one last little thought experiment. All right. Again, when I told you that I had that source that told me straight up where Wright wanted to go. I'm still not spoiling that. I want to keep that confidential. But the fact that I was able to confirm he had no interest in playing in Arizona, that was the exact quote I got. It wasn't from right out of Wright's mouth that I have no interest. Like, I guess it's his exact quote, but like he made sure to tell me it's like he has no interest, which tells me that he probably threw it out there, and the guy he probably like laughed at it because like why would you want to go to Arizona? All right, so we're going to characterize Wright here based off of that as someone who looks down on the market. It could be because of a bias, a Canadian bias. It could be because he just doesn't, like warm weather. He thinks the franchise is garbage. Whatever. All right, we're going to characterize him like that for the purpose of this experiment. What if that is so common that Bedard thinks this market is garbage? Then you have this insanely talented kid that's on your gold medal winning team with you. All right, and Bedard does not seem like the kind of kid that's like super malicious or anything. He seems like a genuinely like good kid. But we're going to characterize him like this for the purpose of this. Oh, Arizona, that garbage market. But he's practicing with Gunnar. They're getting some chemistry on the line. They start playing some games. And Gunnar's just constantly talking about how nice it is. Oh, yeah, we get to go, Scottsdale's really nice, or the weather's amazing. We get to go golfing here or there. It looks like he doesn't like golfing. They got a bunch of stuff you can do, like laser tag or mini golfing or XYZ. Just keeps going over stuff you can do in Arizona and how kick-ass it is to be here. Yeah, we're playing in a college town, so on days off, I like to go hang out around the college, or I go I go hang out. Maybe not at Mill Ave yet because he's 19, but you know how 18, 19, 20-year-old kids are. But hey, it's really fun to be around here. Like, then you get guys like Bedard that, hey, Arizona sucks. Maybe it doesn't suck that much. Maybe if I get drafted by Dallas or whatever. When we go to Arizona, maybe I'll hang out, for the day after if we have a day off or something, or maybe throughout the summer I'll go down there for a couple of days and check it out. Yeah, maybe we can all go hang out.
Yeah.
Okay. So it starts with guys like Bedard, one of the best talents right now available in this upcoming draft. Then he starts talking to guys. You get a couple extra guys that are going. Then you get that grassroots, that genuine grassroots, like good word of mouth. Like, this is the difference between this video game selling 100,000 copies and 6 million. This is the difference between this movie bombing and making a massive profit. It's like that kind of grassroots campaign. And then along with the Coyotes trying to get that management more consistent, with the Coyotes trying to run things better, getting that team turned around, in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, the kid's coming up, oh yeah, I would love to play in Arizona. So like, let's say Bill Armstrong is interviewing all these guys. Let's say all three of those players are drafted in the first round. We're the only guys of the first 40 players that said, I do want to play in Arizona. Just for the sake of argument. Maybe next time it's 5 guys in the first 32 or 40. Then it could be 8. And you keep growing it from there. So it's like, I think that's insanely valuable. And we need more guys like Gunnar. Gunnar for captain.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's like you're saying, that's how it starts. And, a perfect example of this is just look at, excuse me, just look at in basketball. Oh my God, I'm trying to blank. California Golden State Warriors. Like, that team was laughably bad, and nobody wanted to play for the Golden State Warriors forever. And then Steph Curry comes in, and it's like, yo, this team's kind of sick. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of other guys come in, and it's like, okay, we have something here. And then they just start winning championships, and now everybody wants to be, the Golden State Warriors have turned themselves into a legitimate franchise, even though I remember, the 10, 15 years ago, that team was a joke, It was...
and they built it the right way. Another thing you could share in common with the Coyotes, they built it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, and I think a lot of the criticism is valid on KD. Not all of it, but I think a lot of it is. But it's like, you were good enough that you won it legitimately. That one time, I think it was 2 finals, legitimate finals, people call it.
Yeah.
With that rebuilt team, one of them was a championship. You had enough clout and turned this franchise around so well. You got the biggest free agent to say, I'm going there. And you won 2 more out of the next 3 finals appearance, I think it was. I think it was 3 total. Then you win another one last year, I think it was like 4. That franchise will never be looked at the same.
Yep.
Now, if the next 30 years are garbage, we will have a generation of people saying how garbage that franchise is. All right? But for the next 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 years, even if they're just good, maybe win one more championship in the next 10 years, 20 years, they'll still be seen as a good team, a good franchise, a good place you can go and play. Whereas, not to pick on Sacramento, but they're picked on a lot. Whereas, Sacramento, a lot of guys, maybe I don't want to go there, as they don't really have that much success. Oh, hey, Golden State and Sacramento are offering me, contracts. Well, Golden State, that's going to be a bigger name. Even if it's 5, 6 years, 10 years down the line, they're still going to have more prestige than Sacramento, barring Sacramento having a similar, path as Golden State. But just so you can have that perspective right now, you're going to be, your eyes are going to light up when Golden State offers you a contract. You might be a little abrasive to the idea of going to Sacramento. Same thing with the Coyotes, and the Coyotes are offering you a contract versus the Boston Bruins. It's like your eyes are going to light up. Wait, an original 6 team wants me? Or even, to an extent, you could argue, if you're a Canadian boy, you grew up in Ottawa, oh, my hometown team, or Ottawa wants me, or the capital of Canada, their team wants me to play there if you're a Canadian kid. Or, if you're from the big city, oh my God, the Rangers want me to play there? Your eyes will light up because of the market, or the prestige, or the original 6, or they've had all this success and they've built themselves up. Whereas Arizona, as much as I will always have a flaming passion for this team and this market, I was born here. I grew up loving this team. All right? You're not going to have that if you're from Wisconsin or Manitoba or Switzerland. So, you have to make this market more appealing, and I think it starts there. And good on you, Gunner. I was already going to get a Gunther jersey as soon as I can get a not Adidas white Kachina customized, because, damn, that price is starting to kill me getting into customized Adidas. But, Gunner is already valuable on the ice, and it looks like he's putting in the work off the ice. So, who knows? Again, if we can get 5, 6, 7 people say I want to play in Arizona of the top 32, keep building. Go from there to where, we don't have another Blake Wheeler. We don't have another guy that's I don't want to be there. We don't ever want to have that again. So you have to keep building, so that way you're like any other team. You're like the Islanders. If anyone gets drafted by the Islanders, unless you're a hardcore Rangers or Devils fan growing up or whatever, you're going to be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to a good team. You're not going to think about, oh, that team's kind of trash.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to cut us off there. We have gone over the hour mark, so I think it's time. So, if you liked what you listened to, please give us a like, a follow, a subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And be sure to check us out on YouTube. That is Desert Moon Hockey on YouTube, where you can find all of our podcasts, and including short little clips from the podcast as well, which are pretty fun. So, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.
Funny?
What?
My wife got me this a couple years ago, so I'll wear it as an undershirt sometimes. It's funny you brought that up.
Tell the listeners what you're wearing.
I'm not going to tell them. You can watch you can watch the podcast for the nip slip.
There you go. You're going to have to go to the video to see what he was wearing. It may or may not have been a tutu. So
it might have been a banana hammock.
A little bit. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.